CBS News has confirmed Mueller is likely to request an interview with Spicer. We've also learned that Mueller's interviews with White House officials, past and present, could begin as early as next week.
Hey, Major. Question for you on all of
Hello,
this.
Steve.
How big of a deal is this? It seems every day we have a little nugget that comes out about who has what information and who's going to be talking to the special counsel, et cetera. How big is this Sean Spicer notebook situation?
I'm really glad you asked me that, Steve. It is the central question in this story each and every day, and I can understand how viewers might wonder, with each story, how much more does it advance the story? Does it tell us something that's potentially very important, or does it tell us something that in the context of an investigation should be more or less assumed? And I think in this case, Steve, we're closer to the latter than the former. Let's just take this at face value. There's a picture that was clearly shown in my piece of a big book with lots of handwritten notes by Sean Spicer, indicating circumstantially, at least for that book, that he did what? Took a lot of notes. If, in fact, the special counsel, as we at CBS have confirmed, is curious about some actions President Trump took as president in the context of this investigation, might it be reasonable to assume that the special counsel and his investigators would want to talk to people close to the president around those various events? The firing of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, the firing of former FBI Director James Comey, an Oval Office meeting with Russian officials, and the like. And if Sean Spicer was one of those people close to the president and took lots of notes, might you reasonably be interested in what those notes say? Of course you would be. So in that sense, it seems to me to be commonplace in an investigation and necessary to find out if there's anything relevant in there. And that's the one thing I want to impress upon our viewers. Curiosity of any investigator doesn't mean anything is wrong or necessarily nefarious. It means understandable curiosity. Now, it's also worth noting that Sean Spicer will not answer and tries to deflect every single question about this, taking a very, not defensive, but asserting a sense of, I'm not going to deal with this until I'm forced to deal with it in any sort of context, meaning withholding his right to say nothing until he has to say something, suggesting he fears he might at some point have to say something. Under what kind of duress? The natural conclusion is legal duress. Now, that's a tactic many innocent people use, and it never gets to that stage. So I'm not suggesting anything here. But in the context of this story, I think it is worth noting, and those watching Sean Spicer in my piece would probably have noted it already.
Major, what's the vibe around the White House? Do you think people are nervous that Sean was taking such copious notes of what was going on every day there? Do you think that they feel there might be something damaging in there to the president or to some other folks at the White House?
I would say the sense among those within the White House is that there is a sense of unknowing about some aspects of this story. What was Sean writing down? Now, it's quite possible to assume that Sean was taking very basic notes, and that one page that's visible on close-up in that Associated Press photograph taken April 12th in the East Room of the White House looks like very ordinary stuff. References to senior administration officials, dates, times, other things like that. It could all be very basic, very simple, very boring. Or it could be something else. The investigators don't know, and others in the White House don't know. But if those notes are in any way relevant to the Mueller investigation, they may create a paper trail. That's a huge variable, a huge intangible. We simply don't know the answer to that. But we know that, as investigators are inclined to do, you look in every direction, gather everything you can, and see what matches up. And that's the problem, or that can be the problem in government investigations, things that don't match up, either on paper or in interviews. And that's the element of this story that has yet to take place. The interviews with White House officials, past and present, will be crucial for the investigators in matching up things that they've already established in terms of evidence that they already possess.
Yeah, I think you make the good point, which is we don't really know the motivation for why Sean was taking these notes all the time. Maybe it was just to keep his memory fresh, or maybe, who knows, right? And so I think to jump to a conclusion based on the fact that he had notes to figure that it's automatically going to be a negative effect on what's going on with the White House, that might be a bridge too far at this point, right?
Sean could have just simply been memorializing his experience, and could anyone blame him for that? I mean, you have to admit this is a historic presidency in all of its dimensions, controversial, in some ways appalling and frightening to Americans, in some ways better than ever and more enthusiastically supported than people can remember. So there are a lot of dimensions to this presidency. Sean Spicer might have just been memorializing those things and also having for him his own set of points that he can quickly refer to that are always close at hand. We simply do not know. But people who don't know what's in that notebook or notebooks are left to wonder. And if I would say there is one dynamic in the White House about this whole story, is that sense of wonderment. And I don't mean in a sort of youthful, exuberant, I wonder what the next page of this story is going to be, but like, where's this going and what could the implications be? People don't know, and that sense of unknowing does create a sense of unease.
Major Garrett, thank you. I'm sure I'll see you soon.
I hope so.